Good morning, everybody. Tuesday, here we are. All right. Yes. 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 All right, so we've got Mbulelo, we've got Lebang, we've got me, we've got you. It's a full house this morning. All right, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell the people you respect, tell the people you want to disrespect. Pretty much open season. We don't mind. As the wise Don King once said, "Whomsoever wants to come, let him come." That's pretty much that's our only marketing plan for the show. Whomsoever wants to come, let him come. All right. Much to get through today, much to talk about, much to get involved in. We'll get to some headlines later on. Being a Tuesday, we've also got This Is Us this morning with a very prominent guest, which I'm looking forward to introducing to you. We've had him on before on the Burning platform, but he's somebody who really has an interesting insight and has remained one of those people you can look to for a sensible answer on some of the more crazy stuff that we obviously have to see and deal with as South Africans. And I said to you at the beginning of the year, I'm feeling very optimistic about things, just generally, you know?
Yeah, something in the air.
Yeah, you also feeling optimistic? You feeling good about things?
Definitely. Like I feel as though this is the year where I am going to make at least 5 million, for starters. There's that. And then just and then just generally like the vibe is like I feel like more and more people are starting to realize that they're in control of their own futures and like they can't just sit and wait for other people to get it done. And I'm not making this up, like real talk. This is how I feel. So I hope it actually happens. I'm quite keen, to see some good follow-ups. Like, oh, it's June, I said I'm going to get a job, I got it. Or, I said I'm going to do this, I did it. That kind of vibe. So I hope it stays like that for a while.
Well, I mean, nothing wrong with that. If you make 5 million, that's good news for all of us. I mean, if just think about it this way, because people get so jealous, like this is why some people are miserable and will be miserable their whole life long. Think about it this way: if Lebang is making 5 million, the chances are that the economy is good, and therefore that other people may be making lots of money as well. But if Lebang has a terrible year, it's a huge possibility that everyone is having a terrible year. A good tide raises all boats. Isn't that what they usually say? So let's hope for that. And really, we've got a lot to work for in this country. We've got a lot of problems to solve, and every problem that needs solving represents an opportunity that could make you money. That's the way I see it. Yeah. If we lived in a place where everything worked, was all perfect, we would have no problems to solve, and we would rely entirely on the politicians. And then we wouldn't. I mean, that's not the kind of place I want to live in. I don't know about you, but that's not for me. So, Mbulelo is wearing a very colorful shirt this morning, and he's going to lead us in prayer to start the show this morning because we know how religious he is. So go ahead, Mbulelo, it's all yours.
Dear Jesus, let us all realize that people are still going to be obese, but we need to give them the room, quite literally, to be themselves. Dear Jesus, let's hope that organic mangoes never run out again, because annoyingly, I went to Woolworths yesterday.
Oh, no.
And they didn't have those sealed packets again. They only had normal mangoes. So as I say that, dear Jesus, lead us not to temptation, but to a world where we eat less.
And there's an abundance of organic mangoes.
Yeah, well,
hallelujah.
Jesus only needs to hear it once.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
Amen. I'm with you. What a great prayer. That may be the best prayer I've heard in a long time.
Hallelujah.
And again, very unselfish of you, Mbulelo, worrying about the obese people. It's nice of you. And also, who is so gracious that they immediately think of organic mangoes for all? If the ANC ran on that, they'd have all the support. Stupid ANC. Anyway, so lots of questions coming in thick and fast this morning. For starters, Robin wants to know, how's Carl? Carl is alive. He is well. He's on medication like any old creature on earth. He's on chronic medication, which, will happen to all of us at some point. We'll all eventually go on chronic medication. So he's got like a bunch of tablets in the morning and then a bunch of them at night. And it's a pain in the ass, but what are you going to do? Got to keep the little guy's heart going. And he's fine. He seems healthy and happy. We took him for his inoculations yesterday at the vet. There's this annual thing you do with the dogs. And it was hilarious because I took my dog, Carl, and I took my parents' 2 dogs, and I took my sister's dog all at the same time. So it looked like a menagerie. It's kind of embarrassing, those people who pitch up, they pitch up in like one tiny car and then 13 people get out. Felt like that. That's what it must have looked like too. Anyway, so that's all done. And then another question here. When are you going to tell us about Millie? Well, that's Annette, whose profile picture is a little spaniel as well. So Millie's the puppy that I gave to my parents in December, and she's very, very happy. And she's very, very healthy, and she's full of love and full of life, and she's the cutest little thing ever. So I don't know what else you want me to say at this point, but we will see. Anyway, Sean is giving Mbulelo credit for thinking out of the box, which is I just hate that line. I hate when people say things like, let's sort this problem out at grassroots level. You're thinking out of the box. Blue sky thinking. People have pulled these quotes out of shitty corporate talks that they've been to, or from TED Talks 10 years ago. And it just makes me I feel hollow inside when people use language like that. They talk in that corporate speak, and you hear so much of it in South Africa. And people aren't even ashamed to be using it because it's all so terribly cliched now that when you hear it, you just want to, it's so bad. Yeah, and the other thing is, of course, the president was on last night, and he was talking about the NEC meeting the ANC had, and he uses a different kind of corporate speak. It's more political, obviously. And he talks about, he must have used the words social compact, I don't know, 20 times during the 5 minutes that I heard him. Well, we've got this social compact. And I'm like, there's no social compact, dude. Did you not see those riots in July? Did you not see that? Do you not pay attention to how you guys have ruined the economy and made more people poor? You don't see that? A social compact would mean, first of all, that the politicians actually gave a damn about the people. There's none of that. So don't you talk to us about a social compact, how you're going to rebuild the economy. Everything you have touched has turned to shit. And you're going to tell us like there's a social compact? You know how the people of this country feel about you. I'll tell you how you can check. Just count how many went to the polls last year, and then count how many of those voted for you. It's not even a majority. It's not even a majority of people in South Africa.
Mbulelo, as a social commentator, dude, surely you can unpack and let us really know why these leaders, in inverted commas, choose to run to these big fancy terms in order to try and, distract us. Please, the floor is yours.
Famed collapser of the Middle East, Henry Kissinger, famously used a term. They engage in something called constructive ambiguity. And that is to say that whilst they loot and steal, they make us look over there. And a magician might, say, look over here while I do that. So a little constructive ambiguity never hurt. You say things that aren't all the way there and the society doesn't quite know. And then, of course, you put sport on their screens. And then what happens is they're distracted, and it is the opium of the people. And then you give them social media, and then you give them alcohol, and then you give them Instagram. And these are the opioids of today. And then we say things like the social compact, which the ancient Greeks knew very well, that the bedrock of society is not the leaders, it is the people. So said Socrates.
So Mbulelo, he used another term at least 10 times during his boring little diatribe on the news last night. His other term is one that you love, stakeholders.
Oh, the constituents. We must engage with the constituents, and following that, the stakeholders. It is important to engage the stakeholders.
He said something along the lines. I mean, this could have been pulled out of like a 1978 Comintern, Brezhnev Gorbachev, Stalin, Khrushchev, fucking collapsed. Like a whole lot of just twee and very obviously made up terms from the Communist Manifesto. In fact, he goes, "We've got to take control of the economy and make it more equitable, and in doing so, establish a new social compact where everyone participates as equal shareholders." Sorry, stakeholders, not shareholders. Stakeholders. And he says, this should not just focus on big business and government, but also on the small enterprises and communities. You know, the word communities has been so bastardized. Like you hear people talk about the body positive community. Now, I've never walked into a meeting and gone, oh shit, I think I've stumbled on the body positive community. Even the word, like even the term black community, because we all know that there are different black communities. Some of them are big, some of them are small, but there's no like overall black community where all the black people are invited and then they all get to decide, or all the white people get to decide, or, you know, there's like this bullshit idea that we form these large scale collectives that can be understood and easily manipulated by a bunch of politicians. I just hate when they talk like that. It's the same as that corporate speak stuff. It just grates me in the worst way. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest this morning because he was on the news last night. And, you know, these days we don't really take him as seriously as we did during the lockdown, because we actually we listened to him during the lockdown because we needed to know what we could and couldn't get away with, and how much of it we needed to take seriously. Anyway,
we needed a plan and we just didn't get one. So now when he talks like we don't care, it's like, okay, you guys have been spewing the same thing. Like it's not news that the communities need to get involved so that the economy can become. We know now what this is not like anything that we haven't heard before, and that's where it gets problematic. It's like you guys are reshuffling these speeches and just saying them in different years to apply to that current state.
And my worst is all the who is designing all these ANC t-shirts, jackets, shirts.
The stylist
who's designing these things. Did
Whoever's
you see
got that tender?
Did you see the one that Fikile Mbalula was wearing somewhere around that ANC anniversary in the beginning of January? He was wearing one where they'd basically stolen the Mercedes AMG branding, right? And instead of AMG, they'd had ANC. I mean, this is how creatively bankrupt that organization is. They actually stole someone else's corporate branding.
It's bad.
You must know how hollow and emptied out your organization is of any thought, creativity, innovation, when you actually steal like Mercedes-Benz's, not just a particular sub-brand of theirs, and you think you can just make that yours. I just couldn't believe this when I saw it. I was like, what? Yeah. You got to be joking. Here's a picture of it. And they apparently had to apologize and like destroy all the merchandise because guess what? It belongs to, this is typical of an organization that just steals. They even steal corporate branding. You see this AMG, but it says ANC on the sleeve.
They didn't even try.
Wow, that's unreal.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
That is copy paste.
But you can imagine, like Fikile thought he'd come up with a great idea there. If it was him, whoever it was, they're like, oh, I've got such a good idea here, comrades.
You know? No, they're very desperate, guys. Like at some point, they were putting so much effort and energy and PR and talk into like how the shirts look and the like inverted commas, the rebrand of ANC. I think they were just trying to connect with the youth a bit more, but we kind of saw right through that. Again, we're like, guys, no, it's not going to work. You can't get at us through your clothes. No, like
imagine like just taking someone else's idea and just pretending it's perfectly okay that you've stolen it. I mean, like these people have no idea how property works or how ideas work or an economy works. This is why we're in the situation we're in, because all they can do is steal. All they can do is steal. You know, it's just, and also this obsession with brand. Like I said, those shirts. Do you remember those leather jackets that they were all wearing? like 2-3 years ago, maybe even a bit longer. They were wearing those hideous like patch, but the patches were green and black and yellow, you know? And you're like, ugh. I think Gedletlekis still pulls his out every now and then. Maybe it's the only jacket he's got left. I don't know. It's so
when Gwedemantashe had it with his obviously Shiva's burnt lips, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, man. No.
Wow, not Shiva's catching this L. Come on.
No, man, not like that. You've let it go. You're not 27 anymore. Let it go. Leather jackets. Remember, and then they had the motorbike brigade with the ANC color BMWs. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh my God. Like Fong Kong, that's pretty much what they are. They're Fong Kong. They're Fong Kong liberation now. They're Fong Kong politicians now. They're amateur at everything they do. It's amateur hour. It's like watching the kids take over the creche. That's what it is.
It's exactly
chaos.
Good luck. Good luck, you sons of bitches, and keep stealing other people's ideas. I hope they sue you into the ground. You have no money anyway. Let's give you even less. So, DK says, I think I need to escalate this to corporate affairs at AMG. Yeah, I think so too. I think so. Just take it to them. Mercedes won't sue them. They get 50% of their African sales from the ANC. I don't think so anymore, man. I don't think so anymore. Oh.
Not since Tony Yengen.
Yeah. No, that was the last. That was when relations were still good. Side note, when I want to amuse myself, I imagine Gareth or Mbulelo or whoever driving down the street in a beat-up green Uno. I would, you know, if because I don't own a car at the moment. If I did own a car, I'd own a cheap car, and I wouldn't care if you saw me in a cheap car. I really that's
but like
not.
You're too big for an Uno, Gareth. Maybe like a.
Come on, Lebang. I don't even think you can find an Uno anymore. If you're looking for an Uno,
really, Facebook Market has everything, everything. Yeah, dude.
Look it up now. See if you can find me an Uno.
Check.
See how much it'll cost.
I hope it's green. I swear to God, if it can be green. Uno.
That's so good.
Uno car.
Yeah, remember Unos?
Yeah, those were awesome.
There we go. There's one for 9,500 rands.
Wow.
Bonas.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
you won't
great.
be able to see that well, but yeah, there's one for 9.5. I mean, that can be
9 point something.
Yeah,
that's great. And 9.5.
My boy,
does it work? Does it work?
Hey, look, that part they won't tell you. You have to call to find out.
It's a separate conversation.
There's a white one. Yeah.
Okay, so
Told you.
Gail says she has a 2006 Santa Fe. What is that? That she bought for cheap from a deceased friend of my wife's dad. I don't care. It's paid for. No sleepless nights. What's a Santa Fe?
Santa Fe. Sounds like a perfume.
Does it?
Nah, I don't know what that is. I'm not a car guy. I wish I knew more about cars.
I used to be, hey. But I can say now, like I could drive any old car and it wouldn't bother me. And it's not the most important thing because I got it out of my system in my late 20s. I mean, I drove like sports cars and SUVs and all kinds of things that cost me a lot of money. And you need to have that. You need to go through that. Don't believe anybody who says to you, I'm not materialistic at all. I've never been, into material things when they've never actually had the chance to buy material things. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Believe the people who have had it and then decided, no, I don't need this anymore. Not lost all their money and had to stop doing it. Like someone who's just gone, yeah, that phase is over. I'm done with that. Yeah. But speaking of cars, yesterday we heard about Arnold Schwarzenegger and how he had that accident with his enormous, monstrous car and like 3 other cars. And he got out of the car and went, I'm sorry, I drove into your car. I will try to drive better tomorrow. Here, give me your insurance details. Or something like that. We don't know what he actually said.
Damn.
But he's 76, I think, was the age we figured out he was yesterday, which is not that old, but there comes a time, where you got to stop driving. I heard about a dude. I spoke to my aunt on Friday. I saw her in Cape Town. She was telling me about the woman across the street who had a brother who was still driving around at 90.
No.
Yeah, so
Stop.
I know you feel very strongly about this, Lebang. You reckon there should be an age limit, and then this is controversial because if you take away an old person's independence, sometimes that's where they really start to go downhill, right? So if they can't go to the shops or can't visit their friends or they can't go to their whatever it is, bridge club or Stockfell or whatever it is that they're going to, right? They have to be able to get around. And for many old people, it's much more traumatic and difficult to catch a taxi or get on a bus than it is to just get in their own car. But the problem is at 90, not a lot of
dude.
there are a few. I'll always give you, the benefit of the doubt if you're 90 years old and say, well, maybe you're one of those handful of people who are still totally good at 90. There are a few.
Yeah.
And they are the exception, not the rule. But do you think we should cut off at a certain age? We should say, sorry, driver's license expires at this age and you can never get a new one.
Yeah, look, I think obviously there are older people who only, really get rejuvenated at that time of their life. And for the most part, maybe having that independence and driving themselves around is what keeps them going. They get to do their own thing. And, you don't want to strip them of that. But I think we just need to be cognizant of the fact that they're not all like that. There are a lot of older people who just can't drive anymore and they don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit the fact that they are actually struggling, but they're stubborn, so they'll want to keep driving. I think we should probably introduce some sort of like, at a certain age, you have to take the test again, just to see if you still got it, like if you can still manage. But if that doesn't work, just cut off age, at a certain point, just let it go. We'll get you a driver or something.
So what's the cutoff age?
80. I think 80 is cool.
80.
It's old, but I'm meeting them halfway here because again, some of them are still fit. They're involved. You don't want to have like a group of old people rioting because they pissed off that they can't drive.
So are you making it a blanket like 80 years old? Sorry, if you're 80, you can't drive, or are there like special exceptions that you will, if they prove that they've got good eyesight, they can react quickly, or is it sorry? It's done. Sorry.
It's done. How many years have you been driving? Number one, if you're 80, aren't you just tired of driving? Like driving isn't like a nice thing. We don't all stand up and go, oh, I'm going to drive today. It's tiring. So you know what? We'll get you a driver. You're 80. You don't need to do this anymore, I think, because when you're driving somewhere and like the person in front of you is just driving ridiculously, whether it's at a slow pace, whether they're switching late, you can just see that something is wrong. When you overtake them, it's like a 19-year-old granny.
I saw an old couple. They must have both been. I mean, they were so ancient. Like if you went, they would turn to dust and like just dissipated. This old couple were driving to the shops in front of me the other day, and I could tell it was an old couple because they were going so slowly. And then as the road opened up a bit and I overtook them, I drove past and the old man was like sitting right on the steering wheel. Old lady was probably falling asleep next to him. Who knows? But I thought to myself, I kind of like that there are old couples that are still driving around at that age, that they're still together and going to do things rather than just sitting moldering away in some old age home or, in a back room at their kid's house or whatever. But I do get it. Like, I do think like very old people are a huge hazard on the road, and that slow thing can be a massive problem. But they also drive the oldest cars, right? Because old people don't care to, and this is why you should be rich, because if you're very old, you should maybe have a driver, or you should be able to Uber everywhere you need to go, because they don't really need to go a lot of places. They're not like busy social calendars and having to go to work and all that stuff. And people should really be going to you when you're that old. They should come to you. Muhammad should come to the mountain. But if they do, they drive these kinds of cars, like this one. Old
Cressida. Hey, listen, that's the baby daddy car, by the way. But if your uncle or your old man, right, there's something called a long base. I don't know if you remember the long base. Any car, any man who has to change the gear on the side like this, you know what I'm saying? Any dude, from taxi driver to your uncle who wears the fedora vibe, if he has to change the gears like this, my man's got kids with three baby mamas. Shout out to black people, you know who I'm talking about. there's a light green Cressida that everyone knows. If
Light
your uncle
green.
drove that Cressida, they know him in the.
You can buy
That
those.
guy.
And by the way, someone sent me a picture of exactly the car I'm looking for me and Mbulelo.
Is that the
There it
Uno?
is.
That's the
Yeah.
Uno. That's that thing.
9,000 rand.
I'll tell you what, though, there are probably a few of them that are still going like a bomb, you know? They can really go. Like my friend had one at university, and I always said it was the fastest Uno you'd ever seen in your life. He used to hurtle down the N1 highway, and I would fear for my life. I would be like, yes, we're going to die. Because he was going, and the speedometer was going, and this little car, which is basically made of tinfoil. And, this thing was going so fast. And I remember we took it down to the Eastern Cape on a holiday once. And I remember us driving through the Free State where the road was not so great. You know, where the edge of the road is starting to fall off a little bit. I thought, oh my God, if we hit this edge at the speed we're going at, it's tickets. No one, people will just go, oh, what a terrible accident. And that'll be the way I die on the side of the road in the Free State. And who knows?
You know, speaking of the age thing, it's like I really, really want to. I hope I age well, because there's a dude up the road from me at the shopping center that I usually go to. Is that every Sunday, right? If I'm out for breakfast, I see him, Rolls Royce, but the big boy one, not the little rapper one that these rappers have. It's the one with the umbrella in the door and the step with like those super fat wheels. I don't know cars, but anyway, this Rolls Royce. It's mental. And the doors open like you're opening a cupboard. It's not just a regular door like a car I could afford. You know what I mean? So every weekend, steps out his wife, and he's got the classic silver fox hair. He's probably in his 70s somewhere. Pops the door open for his wife, and he steps out right in front of the classic restaurants with the biggest yuppies. And it's boss levels right from there. Just incredible, that guy.
So he's flexing on you, basically.
And he wants he wants to let me in his car. I was like, oh my gosh, do you mind? And he even put the step down for me. I was like, oh my God, you have to be this rich when you're old. This is the only way to do it.
You've been around long enough.
But I was thinking, South Africa is not a great place, particularly Johannesburg, to be old. You know, when I think back when I used to visit my mom, she lived in Geneva. I was like, I have been thinking about it. I was like, that's how I'd want to do it. Because I'm old. I just want to step on a train that works. There's the shops. Great. The air's clean. It's awesome.
Certain places are really good for old people. I mean, especially coastal cities tend to be better for them because they get the arthritis and all that stuff. So in a more in a sea level and a more humid area, they tend to to do a bit better. But also, things have to be on one level. You don't want too many steps or too many escalators or lifts. The minute old people have to go up, it's this that kills them. It's not that. They can handle that as long as it's level. You know? Anyway,
and stuff has to work when you're old. You know.
Kuhle says, my gran was 80 with a bad knee, but she still walked to church every Sunday and could give a hell of a beating.
Nothing will keep black people from church.
That muscle memory.
The beatings with a stick.
Yeah, the muscle memory of the beating ain't going nowhere. That one they'll continue until the grave.
That's awesome. Dr. Robin says, my big brother had an Uno. His nickname became the sumo in the Uno. It was so awful. Molly Curry says, hey, leave my Mazda 323 alone. Everyone thinks I'm a taxi, and they've tried hijacking me as well. Those Mazda 323s, hey?
Yeah.
Bangers.
But also, like, in the rural areas, like the local taxis that, you move around from 1 kilometer to between 5 kilometers are really the Mazda 323s, the Toyota Corollas, the smaller. Those are the vehicles.
And you mustn't forget, in those rural areas, we're not talking about roads that actually are roads. We're just talking about like a track. And those 323s can handle like a 4x4 on that terrain.
Japanese. The Japanese.
Oh man. When we were away for New Year, we were driving. One of my friends has a couple of like 4x4s, and we were driving them up in the mountains and on these rocks and up these like serious inclines and declines and through mud and all kinds of things. And I thought, in South Africa, you don't have to go into the bush to find terrain like that. You could just drive through, like, some of the rural homesteads and places where people live in more far-flung parts of this country, and they're putting up with terrain like that every day. And they're not doing it with, the special gears and the diff locks and all of that stuff. They're doing it in those 323s.
Yeah, in the little tiny Toyotas.
Yeah. Michael says, my friend used to own a rusty red Rolls Royce with a bumper sticker that said, "Fuck the poor." It wouldn't be funny on any other car.
Damn.
Great.
Okay,
Oh
Michael's
my God.
And Rivka says, Cressidas were excellent cars. We had a 1988 model, and the mechanic who serviced the car said that model was the best model Toyota made back then. Taxis in Hong Kong were Toyota Cressidas. Okay.
Yeah, no. Cressida's iconic. It really is iconic. If you go to some of the cassis now, like Davidson, Soshanguve, Atteridgeville, like till this day, you'll always see like a shiny Cressida in somebody's neighborhood, sparkly, good as new. They just don't drive it because now it's like,
that's what Mbulelo saying about the baby daddy.
Especially if it's the green one. Everyone knows the Cressida green. That guy.
I just want to find a picture of a car. When I see a certain car, I think of. Let me just show you this, because when I think of these, I think of like those old politicians we used to have during the old regime, because they loved these cars. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I think
I do. The E-Class Mercedes.
That's the one, but the old one.
The E-Class Mercedes. It's well known.
This is the one.
Pierre bought this car.
Yeah, Pierre. Yeah. Those guys.
Exactly.
This one.
Yeah, Nazo.
Yes.
The old E-Class. Those things, you just knew you were dealing with an old racist.
Yeah, it screams that.
Yeah, if one of those pulled up, you just knew old racists going to get out. That's what's It's amazing. All right, we got a lot of other stuff to get to this morning. We're already at 6:30. Yes, it's 6:30. We've got to move. Okay, we got some headlines. Let's do some of those quickly. Let me tell you what's going on in the world. So Thierry Mugler, the famous French fashion designer, died at age 73. Do you know anything about him? Do you guys know anything about this dude?
I don't know about him. I just know about his work. It was some really iconic, dare I say, out the box kind of work. It was just beautiful. Beautiful.
Right. Well, let me tell you, his work may have been beautiful, but he certainly wasn't. And I'll show you a picture of what I mean. But he, among other things, designed Beyonce's costumes for when she was in Destiny's Child, and even later on when she had her own solo career. But he had quite a lot of plastic surgery. So if you take a look at what Thierry looked like when he was younger, and then you compare it to how he looked when he was older, this is a warning, a shot across the bows for anybody who feels like they need plastic surgery. Is just be very careful, because clearly this guy didn't have, a lack of money. So I'll show you what he looked like when he was a young man. And since we were comparing Unos and old Merc E-Classes, this is how he looked when he was younger. Not a bad-looking dude. There he is with Diana Ross. She was one of the people who left a tribute to him on social media, on the internet yesterday when he died. But famous as, as Lebang says, it's a famous fashion designer type. But then this is how he looked a bit later on. So just pay attention to the nose here. It's very important. Look at the bridge of his nose between his eyes, and now look at this picture. Slightly revolting by comparison.
Ridiculous.
And I've got another picture which is probably even more horrible, because he's between two normal-looking, in fact, quite beautiful-looking people, and you can see the difference. So, there's one very attractive woman who's dressed like Nefertiti, but then he's in the middle with his nose that looks like a blob of clay that's just been thrown onto the front of his face. And I know we shouldn't be speaking ill of the dead, but one day after they've died. But really, this is a big warning to anyone who is into plastic surgery. Don't overdo it, because we want to remember you as a human, not as a Ken doll, especially in the world of fashion,
Yeah.
Please,
I wonder what happened to him, because he looked fine when he was young, right? Like, was it not related to like an illness or something?
No, I don't
I
think so.
mean,
You know, when people are too obsessed with the way they look and they're
yeah,
unhappy
and
about the way
money.
they money. It'll give you
Yeah.
reasons to keep going back to that plastic surgeon, which you shouldn't do.
Mm.
Anyway, he was known for designs with broad shoulders, sharp tailoring, inspired by 1940s and 50s glamour. His designs were worn by people like David Bowie, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian's famous wet dress that she wore at the Met Gala. His brand became famous for perfumes in his later years, such as Angel and Alien. And apparently, his official Facebook account was the first to announce it, that he died on the 23rd of January. And a tribute posted on his Instagram page described him as a visionary whose imagination empowered people around the world to be bolder and dream bigger every day. I don't know when people talk like that.
Not everyone's a visionary. Let's stop saying that. So
yeah, maybe he was. But
Yeah.
this idea that ordinary people all over the world are waiting for someone to empower them to be bolder and to dream bigger. And let me tell you, if you can't dream bigger and be bolder without someone inspiring you, you're never going to dream bigger and be bolder. You're just a follower.
That is sadly
You know?
true. It's something inside of you. Yeah, like if somebody does it before you, it can spark it inside of you that you can do it too, but that thing should already be inside of you.
Right. Please, let's just stop saying these things. They don't mean anything. Anyway, lots of people from the fashion world have paid tribute to him. People who you and I wouldn't necessarily know, like, who's this dude? There's a guy called Brian Atwood, who's a famous fashion designer. You might know who this is, but I promise you I don't. Actress and model Irina Shayk, who posted pictures with her. Brigitte Nielsen, obviously an old actress that. Bella Hadid, Winnie Harlow, Heidi Klum, okay, slightly more well-known. Singer Rita Ora paid tribute by wearing a pair of his distinctive jeans. Sex and the City star Kristen Davis said it had been another horrible loss of the visionary Thierry Mugler. Okay, so lots of people very upset in the fashion world about him.
Yeah, something's definitely happening in the fashion world. I think like this year already, like there's been quite a few losses of some really iconic stylists. I don't get it, but it's just very sad.
Again, I don't want to speak ill. I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I never know when it's too soon. So that's why maybe you come to this show so that you can find those too soon jokes. But the one thing that will live on is that fucking nose of his. Trust me, that's not going anywhere. So there it is. Look at that, Thierry Mugler. Anyway, good for him. Yeah, I mean, listen, he made an impact. He in the fashion world, people knew his name. People had his perfumes and his fragrances, and clearly he was someone who left a huge mark on the fashion industry. So good for him.
Yep.
We can all only hope to make some impact. And Meatloaf, we didn't even talk about Meatloaf the other day. And I would do anything for love. Meatloaf. There's another. He was an oil painting, wasn't he?
Yes, he's something else. This is my dad's favorite.
Yeah, great. Your dad loved Meatloaf? You're joking.
No, it was weird. Yeah, like they got him. Yeah. Anyway, there was a whole thing about Meatloaf and my old man. They organized it when he left his company in Finland for Meatloaf to be in the mix. Yeah, big time fan, huge fan. Weird as well. Weird that my dad liked that.
Quick story, because this is hilarious. Apparently, Meatloaf had an altercation with Prince Andrew. He had just recently married Sarah Ferguson, and she was apparently giving Meatloaf a bit of extra attention. And Fergie wasn't exactly flirting with me, but she was paying attention to me. And I think Andrew got a little jealous, Meatloaf told a journalist. At this point, many people may be thinking, okay, made it up. But apparently, Prince Andrew proceeded to attempt to push Meatloaf into a moat that was around this little event space where they were. But Meatloaf, who was a big guy, was not so easily toppled over, and instead whipped around, grabbed Prince Andrew and asked him what the big idea was. Meatloaf continued, "So I turned around and grabbed him, and he goes, 'You can't touch me, I'm royal.' And Meatloaf replied, 'Well, you try to push me in the moat. I don't give a fuck who you are. You're going in the moat.'" Isn't that cool?
That is awesome.
Isn't that cool? Like he told off this little twat, this royal nobody who turns out now to be a bit of a pervert as well. So I like that story. Meatloaf wasn't swayed by how royal Prince Andrew was. I like that. Anyway, he was also famous for the Bat Out of Hell album. and all those songs that, again, between him and Thierry Mugler, you've got, two men who were not the best looking people, just to say. If there's going to be a week to die in, don't die this week, because it's going to be you and the ugly people. All right?
Was Meatloaf a visionary?
Let them rest.
Did anybody say visionary for Meatloaf? Because people say it all the time now. Like, no, Bill Gates is a visionary. Nobody else has replicated Microsoft.
He's also I think he's probably genuinely evil.
Well, I mean, we can all say that. I think the Queen and the royal family are evil. Like whatever. We can all have an opinion.
Okay,
on that. He's a visionary. Yeah. Thierry Mugler, somebody else is going to make dresses for Lady Gaga. It'll be fine. He's not a visionary. Relax.
He was
He's not
definitely a
Yves Saint
visionary.
Laurent. He's not Yves Saint Laurent. Like, that was a visionary. Calvin Klein, visionary.
You know why they called him a visionary? The stuff that he put together, it was almost like it was just ahead of its time. Like, by the term visionary, you were just ahead of your time. That stuff can still be worn today, and it could still be dope.
I don't know. These days,
this man's memory, man.
People talk about their uncle and they say, "Oh, he's such a legend." We use these words, like, we throw them around. Your uncle's not a legend. Your friend who can drink 3 beers in a row is not a legend. You can use that word. If you use that word to describe somebody who's very average, then when you do come to use the word for someone who is actually legendary, I don't believe you. You've used up the word.
Low. Yeah.
Like people use the word epic and phenomenal and awesome, and he's so amazing, and she's such a visionary. Like, you use those words at your peril, because when you start using them to describe truly superlative people, I don't believe you anymore. Oh, you said your friend Kathy is a legend and she's epic, and all Kathy's done is sit on her ass all day. You really want me to take you seriously when you call someone else a visionary or legend? Anyway, here's a picture of Meatloaf for those who don't remember him. There he is.
Oh, my word.
Meatloaf covered in bacon. Onion rings. Sorry, that's the wrong picture. Here's Meatloaf. That was him.
There he is.
Great looking guy. So between Meatloaf, who looks like that, and Thierry Mugler, who looks like that, it's ugly week in heaven. So just get ready, everybody. The angels are. This week is the week to let your ugly people go. They're all being welcomed. It's this. This is the special. This is the window that God gives to the ugly to go to heaven. Usually, ugly people don't go to heaven, but this week they're making an exception. So, Thierry Mugler and Meatloaf, well done to both of you. And I would do anything for love. Oh, wow.
All right.
I still want to know what that is, because he says, "But I won't do that." And he never really told us what that was. And I've got a sick mind, so I'm thinking must be some really dirty sexual act. What is the dirtiest sexual act that Meatloaf would not do? If he'd do anything for love, but he won't do that one thing, you got to ask yourself, what is that?
Won't do that.
Someone's going to lie about it.
Ask your dad
Someone's
first.
going to lie. Give it what? You got to be respectful.
Right, Lebang, you froze up. Sorry, we missed you. What did you say there?
I did. I was saying Mbulelo must please ask his dad for us. I mean, if he was such a huge fan, if there's one person who might know, it's your dad.
Might know what that is. Yeah. But I won't do that.
Cracker. It's a brilliant song.
Michael says it was anal sex. He did say. Oh, okay.
Oh, jeez. Don't ask your dad anymore.
Okay. He says he mentioned it 13 times in the song, so we should know what that is.
Gotcha.
Elon, as God says, it's pegging. People are sick. Maybe he wrote the song for Prince Andrew. Uncle Potster says maybe his girlfriend wanted to poo on him, maybe. My God, you people are revolting.
So early in the morning, eh?
Yeah. Thank goodness you guys didn't write the lyrics to Meatloaf's songs. He wouldn't have been as successful. And he, if you'd written the actual lyrics to all of his songs, he might have actually looked like that. Oh, no. Anyway, all right, I've had enough fun with it. Shame. We should be respectful, right? I mean, They only just died this week. Give it a chance.
Dude, their bodies are still fresh. Let's just give them a chance.
God. All right. Let's take a look. There's some boring stories about people in politics. A guy called Arnu Maré, who's been appointed acting community safety MEC after Fritz's suspension in the Western Cape. Sounds boring as hell. Hawks arrest ABSA engineer for alleged theft of 103 million.
Wow.
Okay, that's quite something. You can steal 103 million. Anyway, they arrested a guy called Xolela Maseben, a specialist engineer who worked in Sandton for allegedly stealing 103 million from the bank. He allegedly transferred the money into 6 different bank accounts over 4 months between September and December 2021. He was arrested in Queenstown in the Eastern Cape last week. They are not ruling out more arrests in this matter or bringing additional charges against him. So we'll see. But there we go. That's interesting. And if you worked at ABSA, there was we all have to recan, fecan, do all these things. But it seems like there's just no paper trail when it comes to this stuff. I mean, there must have been, otherwise they wouldn't have arrested him. But it takes them a long time to figure out what's going on. And as we discussed with someone who we had on the show just last week, fraud is a very real thing. You've got to be awake. You've got to be paying attention. 4 billion of the police budget is left unspent as the number of officers declines. This is a major problem in our police force. And if you don't think that this is because the leadership is poor, then I don't know what to tell you. But our police force is depleted and it's struggling to get to grips with one of the worst crime scourges and spend its full budget allocation, even as it complains it has inadequate funding. The country has only 182,000 police officers, 18,000 less than it did in 2010. So we've lost 18,000 police officers because who wants to be in the police, right?
100%.
And according to Becky Kele, the size of the population has jumped by a fifth, but no extra police. So this is something we need to figure out, right? We haven't trained people for the last 2 years because of COVID, he says, but also we don't have a budget for growth. He said this, but they haven't even spent the money that they do get from Treasury. About 4 billion rand that Treasury allocated was not even spent. So what are you talking about, Becky? You don't know how to run the police. Why don't you just open up and admit that you can't run the police and we should find someone competent who can?
And before people jump to the easy answer, it's not because it's dangerous to be a policeman in South Africa. The French Foreign Legion, all right, I know somebody who works on the admin side there, is turning people away every year.
Right.
So it's got nothing to do with it's dangerous. Nobody wants to be part of a losing team. That's just how life works.
And no one
people
wants to
go to Investec.
And you don't want your boss to be an idiot, because if your boss is an idiot, it puts you in even greater danger. And that's the problem 100%. Here. You've got a complete moron in charge of the police in this country. Remember him telling us, you must be in bed by 9 o'clock.
My gosh, that's the guy? That's the guy that you want to work for?
Nah. Right. You know what he looks like? What's the guy's name? Darlington Michaels. For those who don't remember, back in the day, he used to play a character called Bra Georgie on ECT.
Darlington.
Do you remember Bra George from ECT?
Bra George out of this. Bra George is like...
Hey, Dailaichi.
I know who you're talking about.
You know, it feels like Becky, you'd get there and Becky Chele would say, hey, Laichi, yesa mampara, yeah. You know what I mean? Instead of like talking to you in some sort of corporate talk that a guy of his stature should. He feels like a cheap knockoff gangster.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Like that is who he looks like, Darlington Michaels.
He's got that feel as well. Like Tsotsital. He's going to be Tsotitaling now. Imagine. We just lost Gareth, but imagine you get imagine Angela Merkel came to visit and my man says, "Hey, Angela, what's AJ?" Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, definitely cheap knockoff. I remember. I don't know if you remember that video that surfaced of him in Cape Town when he was like walking the streets or whatever, and there were like a bunch of people in a restaurant having lunch, and he walked past them and he just started dancing for them.
Like, oh my! I didn't see it. No.
Yeah, Big Icela, at that point, I knew that this is not the guy. He just started like dancing.
Yeah.
And, like, you know,
look
just
at that photo. Look at that. Doesn't it feel like that's put that? Yeah, that for those who aren't on the podcast, Papa G, they used to call him on Isiting, and this is what this guy's running our country.
He was like the gangster boss, right?
Yeah.
The really dangerous guy.
No, I remember immediately because I looked him up and like I was, oh yeah, I know that guy. So I had to get a picture for everybody who's watching. All right, this is why you need to join us on the YouTube channel and subscribe and like and blah, blah, blah. So please do that. I hate to have to remind you every day, but if I don't, then I get into trouble. And so I've got to do it. So just like and subscribe, etc., etc. And you can comment too. Papa G is what Gabelo says. Yeah.
Exactly Papa G.
Zamdela says,
Zamdela.
Yo, that guy was like so scary. He had all these like gold rings on his fingers and like, you know when a person walks in the room and you're like, okay, I should leave. That was that guy. He was crazy.
Although on the weekend, it's quite parochial, but there was a guy who was the PRO for Mamelodi Sundowns, which is now Africa's probably richest club. A guy called Alex Goldfingers Chakwane. I don't know if you ever remember this guy.
Alex Goldfingers.
Goldfingers, yeah. The guy's hysterical. And this guy would come out. There was another guy called Patko Mafane, who was the Kaizer Chiefs PRO, and they would go at each other in public. But Sundowns was run by a Romanian lady and him, this Goldfingers. And Goldfingers would come out with a bust down ring on every ring.
What's Romanian? She was Greek, and her name was
Natasha Chiklas.
Natasha Chiklas. Yeah. She was a powerhouse. So here, you want to see what Goldfingers looks like for those people who are wondering. Because I used to be a massive Sundown supporter. So
I forget this, Gareth, that it's your people out there.
That was back in the day. I mean, like, I can't say that anymore. It's Goldfingers. This one.
Yeah, but you need one with his rings. Oh, he's
you
wearing
want
a
to see
suit
the
there.
fingers.
Yeah, there was a different time where Goldfingers.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing. It's a big part of the culture. Till this day, you'd be surprised. It's still a very big thing in the hood. Like having those rings, doesn't matter how old you are. Like even if you're in your 20s, it's such a big cultural statement that you've got these rings on your fingers, and you just you walk around looking good. Yeah, I was actually surprised. One of my friends who lives in Vosloorus, actually, we spend a bit of time with him. So when he visits, he always takes his rings off. So I think after like 6 months of hanging out, I was like, dude, are these your rings? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I've never seen you wear these rings. But he's like, yeah, these are my rings. And then he put them on for me. Every single finger had this huge gold ring. It's such a big cultural statement. I love it. I'm here for it.
That's awesome.
It's like those guys who, you still see these guys who wear those big gold and silver chains around their necks, but the thick ones.
Yeah.
You know the ones I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
I think they look, and there's sometimes a big cross hanging on it as well.
A Jesus piece. We call it a Jesus piece. That's how I know a guy is from the east of Johannesburg or the south of Joburg. Always a chain. Regardless, doesn't matter. If I see a chain, I know. I say, you're not from around here, are you?
But Corona's, because in this country they'll steal that off of you, right? Corona's boring says Tele is a pimp. Unfortunately, I think that makes us his bitches. That's about right.
Damn.
Correct.
Goldfingers.
Alex Goldfingers Chakwa. Legend.
Oh, it's great. We do have characters in this country. I wonder. There was a funny joke. You know how hot it was in Cape Town over the weekend? So someone sent me this meme of like, it's so hot in Cape Town that the gangsters are shooting each other with water pistols.
Damn.
You know what? I'll send a video to Simpiwe to share on social media with Goldfinger, so people can see him in all his element.
Yeah,
I can't get enough of this guy.
I want to see more of Goldfingers. Now you've got me interested.
I'll send you a video now, Gareth. We'll see if we can get it up maybe an hour or two.
Oh, that'll be great. Anyway, listen, speaking of videos, you must also subscribe to the MKT show on YouTube, and they've got lots of cool stuff going on at the moment, especially with AFCON on TikTok. Tell us what's happening.
Tonight, you can join us on TikTok, the MKT show. It is Capo Verde tonight, trying to do their thing against. African teams have the best nicknames, by the way, except us.
Tell us about those.
Yeah, like last night it was the elephants against the scorpions, and tonight the lions of Taranga take on the blue sharks of Capo Verde, and then we the boys.
There was a big match they played last night, but the stadium name was hilarious. Where was it?
Well, it's in Cameroon. I don't know which one it was. Maybe the second team. Yeah. The Indomitable Lions, and then we're boys. Bafana needs to rebrand, guys. We can't be boys forever, man. When are we going to graduate from high school? So, yeah, tonight the Lions of Taranga take on the Blue Sharks of Capo Verde. You can join us for the live watch along, 5:00, the MKT show.
Please, if anybody watched that game last night, I can't even remember who was playing. I think it was Cameroon and someone.
The Comores, who are a holiday resort, by the way. The Comores is a holiday resort, and Bafana didn't qualify, and a holiday resort did.
Holiday resort beat us. That is so embarrassing. They played at what was the stadium called? Oh, it drives me crazy when I can't remember the stuff, because I saw it in the news and I was like, what the hell? Look it up.
Give me a second and I'll be on it for you.
Anyway, I mean, you know who my favorite person in Cameroon is, right? Whenever I think of Cameroon now, all I think is of her. Paul Biya's wife. Her name is Chantal.
The first lady. Oh my goodness! Opening ceremony. Did you see her dress?
Have you seen her hair? She's amazing.
So
I can see we've lost Lebang on this, but Lebang, let me just show you this woman's hair, and you'll see what we mean. She's the first lady of Cameroon, and she has been for like years. I mean, her husband's been in charge there for so long that the country basically belongs to them. So let me show you who this is. Lebang, look at this quickly. I want to show you the first lady of Cameroon. You're going to love this woman. She's easily one of the most interesting looking people in the whole world. All right, Chantal Biya. This is her. Let me find this picture. Hang on a second. There we go.
Absolutely electric.
Take this. Dun, dun. She's what a lot of hair, right? Girl, yeah, exactly.
Okay, you should have seen her for the opening ceremony of AFCON, by the way.
What's the name of this hairstyle?
I don't know what you would call it. It looks like it comes from the 1980s. It's very impressive, though. Very impressive. Don't you think?
So I don't know if you know this,
but this upkeep must take hours.
Yeah,
for sure. Definitely.
It's wild. So I don't know if you know this, in West Africa, skin dyeing is a real thing, right? And so for the AFCON opening, she had this electric dress, just like so that hairstyle popping, whatever she's doing there. Right. But then she had this electric dress, but then she had I don't know what you call it when ladies put this like cream on, but it's a skin dye there, and she had that on for the cameras. It looked ridiculous.
Like skin lightening cream, right?
Yeah. So massive in West Africa. And she's just rocking it, She's just rocking it for the AFCON. There's the FIFA president next to her. I thought, lady, I want the kind of confidence you've got, because you are so happy.
Well, she's spending all of the country's money on her makeup and hair. I mean, there she is in the limo. They're driving through the stadium.
There it is.
Wow.
Can you see her face? I don't know if you can see. She's got this
sort of. That's so sad, guys. Like,
yeah. Shem.
Unreal.
What's so sad? You were saying, the bung?
Cream has everyone in a chokehold. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if you guys are hearing me. Okay. I'm saying like the skin lightening cream has like Africa in a chokehold right now. Like it's not just in West Africa, even like in Mozambique, where like as I told you, my kid's gran lives on just along the border. You see a lot of the ladies coming back into South Africa selling the skin lightening cream, and it's so bad for their skin. They start to turn orange because over again, it's literally got everyone in a chokehold. It's so sad, and you don't even look real anymore. Like your skin just, I don't know, it just looks like a doll, just completely unrealistic, and it's just sad, man. It's not pleasant.
You look like Thierry Mugler, so that's the female version of that. But yeah, it's really dangerous. I mean, some of these things are just basically they contain like bleaches and hydrogen peroxide and really dangerous stuff that actually does huge damage to your skin. I mean, some of them are safer than others. Let's just say that, so we don't get into trouble, because there are obviously products that have been, made more safe, but they're not the ones that do the extreme tone change. When someone has that massive change, you don't recognize them because suddenly they're like 8 tones lighter than when you last saw them. You just know that they're doing pretty dangerous stuff to their skin, and I'm sure that the long-term effects of that are terrible. It's really bad. And that hairstyle, says Mike, should be called the lion's mane. Yes, that's right. Right, absolutely. She looks like she belongs on Jersey Shore, says Achter New York. Chantal Bia. Yeah, go and look her up. And she doesn't seem, whatever she's doing, it definitely involves that skin lightening. It also involves a lot of hair products, especially that hairspray that they used to use in the 80s. She's probably buying up 90% of the hairspray that was available in the 80s and still making it work in Cameroon. But she also looks like she hasn't aged terribly much. So there's something going on there.
Yeah.
She's like the female Donald Trump, actually, a little bit, if you think about it. With that color and that very obviously fake hair that's been sprayed into a very strange pattern. Anyway, I mean, listen, takes every kind of people to make the world what it is. Let's get to the rest of the show. We got lots to do this morning. It is just after 7 o'clock.
Yo, I put it like, wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me. I hope they know by now.
Just because it's about technology, connecting your business to the rest of the world doesn't mean you need to send rockets to space and use complicated solutions. Want to simplicate things? Well, join Jaco Voigt, who is the CEO of Catalytic, on the Unbundled podcast. With skin in the game and a keen focus on educating and assisting you and your business, Jaco decodes all the aspects of connectivity, security, and cloud solutions. Unbundled is brought to you by Catalytic and is available on cliffcentral.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. That's right. And Jaco and his team are back today for more with Catalytic and Unbundled. It is a Tuesday morning on cliffcentral.com. It's just after 7. We've got lots of comments to get to, lots of emails to get to, lots of feedback that we have on various things. But also, coming up, This Is Us, which returns in 2022. Today, with Bonang Mohale, who is, of course, the big man at Business Unity South Africa, and someone who we love to speak to. He's just written a book, which we actually brought up on the show last year when we had him on the Burning platform. And he joins us again this morning to talk about all the big stuff that business is doing, how we can get together as a country, what we can do to make things better, and how we can make 2022 our year. So all of that is coming up in This Is Us a little bit later on. So first things first, Lebang's got some issues she wants to solve, and Mbulelo has too. Mbulelo wants to know, his mother is thinking of an open scholarship, and you're thinking, what degree should she pay for? Now, just explain what an open scholarship is.
Sorry, she's opening. So her and a friend are gonna open a scholarship now. So that's happening. Like, they're not thinking about it. Yeah, for someone who's not stupid like me, say. You got to have like proper marks, and my mom doesn't play around with that. So she was just sort of shooting the breeze with me. What degree should I do? So naturally, she'll lean to medicine. I was like, oh no, that's boring. You should do physics. That's really hard. I tried it. That's who, they're the smartest people I've ever met in academia.
What we need in this country, I mean, you should never go by what the country needs, but there is more opportunity probably for engineers than anything else. So I'd say that's maybe an area she might want to focus on. But if you choose to pay for anyone's education in South Africa, then please make it something in STEM. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It's got to be one of those things. We do not need more lawyers. We do not need more liberal arts students. We do not.
No BA subjects. We made that very clear. There's no BA subjects. There must be people who actually try at university that have to go to lectures. So I said to her, no BA stuff. We can't be mucking around and giving it to a marketing student or something.
Coding, computer science, right? Yeah. That's what we need. That would be something.
I said physics or mathematics. Those for me. If you can get people into that, they can do anything. If you can do that level of maths, like you said, engineering, you can really get into the mechatronics world.
Sure.
So yeah, I just thought it's a pretty awesome thing that she's doing, but I think she's a little bit bored as well. She thinks we don't need her anymore. She's getting that feeling, so she's putting her work into that, which is quite a cool thing, because I'm not really a selfless person like that. I would never think of giving a scholarship for money. I guess I don't have any. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I must get some first. We'll see what kind of person I am.
Well,
so I thought mathematics. And you think engineering?
Anything in science, maths, engineering. And obviously tech, which is something that Ndogozo says here. She should do computer science as a scholarship to offer other people. I think that's great. There are lots of people who are talking about like the trades, but I think we're talking about a degree here that she wants to pay for. We're not talking about the trades. But I do agree, like that's what we really need. Lebang's having some internet issues, but here she is. Hey, Lebang, you there? You can hear us.
Come in, over. Can you hear me? Over. Come in.
Yeah, we can hear you. There we go. She's back. She's back. Oh. No.
Back-ish.
Hello?
Massive delays. There we are. You know what? Kill your video, then usually your audio gets better. Try that. See if that works. Now, I don't even know why universities are still offering BA degrees, because they actually shouldn't. That's a kind of entrapment. I know that this is very controversial stuff, but having been a BA student myself for a while, I can honestly tell you, that's the kind of thing you should do in your spare time. You shouldn't have to have a degree in that. It doesn't really count. I know I'm going to upset a lot of people by saying that, but I don't see those things are great for someone who wants to experience the world, learn some stuff, just have a good general knowledge, an understanding of kind of the values of a society and civilization, and some of the more curious things that humans have done. Obviously, the languages and all of that stuff. It's good to study that, but it shouldn't be a degree that they can charge you thousands and thousands of rands for, and make you have to pay back a huge amount of money through the first 5 years of work, because you're not going to be able to with a BA degree. So I think it's just, in the long run, not sustainable. That's my issue with it. And they used to joke that women in particular went to go and do BAs a long time ago, obviously, because this is very sexist and backward to say now. but they used to go there to just find husbands. That's kind of what that was all about.
No, really? That's very funny.
You know?
And not so untrue. Like, I don't know. See, I don't know. I'm offended by like you say, BA subjects. I'm just like, what is going on there? What do you mean you don't have to pitch up for lectures? It's crazy. So that's not academia.
Tembis, I said to my daughter, choose anything, just not BA admin.
Yeah.
Corona's Boring says maybe BAs should be given out as honorary degrees. You know? Maybe
I hear you.
And Fumo says, then there are BCom students like me. I never really know what to do with those BCom students, because there are also a lot of them that come out of the universities, you know, and I'm not sure where we can put all of them. I'm not sure what we can do to make them useful in an economy. Some of them obviously are useful. Some of them go on to do amazing things, and some of them just do that as a kind of a grounding in business or in commerce, and then they go on to establish their own business or whatever else it is. So it's not always in the degree that you prove that someone is worthy. But there's so many things that they let you study at university that really shouldn't be. You know, like drama. You shouldn't be able to study drama. You should just go and work in a theater and start off by moving heavy shit around the stage, and eventually get a chance to dance or sing or act or whatever other pointless exercise it is that makes people want to do drama. I don't think it should be a degree, really. I mean, the fact that there are people learning to pretend, which is what acting is, for example. The fact that there are people who are learning to pretend on the same campus as there are people who are solving complex engineering problems is an insult to the engineers and a huge compliment that's undeserved for the people learning to pretend. I know this is, again, going to piss a lot of people off, but if your kid is studying literature or drama, you should have just kept them at home and let them read, or let them pretend in the comfort of their home. You don't have to waste thousands of your hard-earned rands on that. It's pointless. You know, what's the difference, says David, between a BA and a pizza? A pizza can actually feed a family of 4. Oh.
I thought I'd heard them all. I thought I'd heard them all. That's very good.
Right. And then Robert Badger says, then I must have to deal with these BA idiots running wild on the street trying to get doctorates their whole life. Well, that's another thing. You know, if you end up in a university, you do your bachelor's degree, then you do a master's, you do a doctorate, and you do 2 or 3 doctorates, and you know, you get to the age of, I don't know, 78, and you've got all these degrees, but none of them are useful. Like, that to me is a major problem.
Anyway, no, it is an issue, the structure of academia, but it's because we're moving into ultimate permissiveness, where we still defer to people and go, the people know what they want. They've got no clue. Like, just force people to do maths early. And all kids should have to do mathematics. I don't care how you feel.
Maths should be compulsory from all the way from the first year that you go to school until you finish education of whatever kind. You should have to do maths. I mean, I hated it for most of school, but then when I eventually got it, I was so grateful. And even though people go, oh, well, when last did you use calculus or trigonometry or geometry? Doesn't matter. It teaches you to think logically. It teaches you to think. It's processes. It's like, if A equals B and C equals B, then A equals C. These are things that you don't get logic from people these days. They don't have common sense, and they weren't ever told how basically things work. And numbers are the best way to learn how things work, because it makes sense. And you could prove that it makes sense. You know? I
stop listening. Once somebody says, oh, bro, I haven't used Pythagoras' theorem in 10 years. I say, okay, you're not for me, because let's not waste each other's time. This is not going to go well. You've got no clue of thinking. You got to think outside the box, is what I should say. Then they'll get it.
Well, Caliph Investesen says, what's the first thing a BA graduate says after qualifying? Would you like some ketchup with your fries? And now don't go and give me examples of great people who have BA degrees. I know there are great people who have BA degrees. Obviously. That's not proving anything, though. Again, lack of logic. Just because there are amazing people who have got BA degrees doesn't mean the BA degrees made them amazing people. You know, just like you're going to find dumb mathematicians, you're going to find uninteresting dreary, not particularly useful, and don't make a contribution type people in the sciences. You're going to find those people. You find the people who are so dreary and so boring, and they'll spend their lives in a lab and they'll never discover anything important. That's going to happen too. But that doesn't mean a science degree is worthless. And it also doesn't mean a BA is great just because some good people came out with BA degrees.
Yeah. No, if you took 10 doctors, or let's use maybe 1,000 doctors and 1,000 of any BA subject, guaranteed, you're going to have way more of the doctors that are able to do stuff than the BA people, and probably take the BA degree and do that better, by the way. Let's fix what you've messed up, because you don't know how to think. You just want to feel.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, these people who go into marketing, I mean, we deal with a lot of people in marketing, but a lot of them are really, really quite low functioning, I have to admit.
Yeah. No, they are. I'm sorry. BA subjects are a joke. It is actually a waste of people's money. It's a complete and utter shambles.
Can you imagine if most of the universities heard this podcast this morning, they'd be incensed. There are lecturers who are doing triple somersaults at the moment. They're so angry. There are people who've just enrolled for their 4th year in an arts degree. And here we are rubbishing it. But you know what? If you get upset, you get upset. I can't look after you. Let's see. Lebang is back. Hey, Lebang.
Hey, y'all. Can you guys hear me? Oh,
Much
joy.
What the hell happened?
I thought you were still in Mpumalanga because your internet was cutting so much.
Mm-hmm.
No, like at a certain time in the morning when everybody starts to wake up in the house and everybody's devices are connected, I think there's like some sort of traffic. Oh no, did I lose you again? Are you guys still there? I think.
No, we're here.
So I restarted the router. I hope it works.
Okay, no, it's working fine now.
Crossing.
All right, so
Okay.
let's talk. You've got an issue you want to solve this morning. Everybody brings their issues here to the show. So you asked the question, why do we keep letting red flags get redder? So I need to understand what you mean.
I think we've lost Lebang again. She might actually be in Mpumalanga.
I'm telling you, there's no way that internet in Joburg is this bad anywhere.
So you weren't here, Gareth, but Lebang is essentially emotionally blackmailing her current partner to marry her. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's not literally blackmailing him, but she said, when we get married, on the show, she just came on and she's like, yeah, when I marry into this family. I was like, whoa, what do you mean? Have you spoken to your partner about this? And she's like, no, it's just presumed. And I was like, okay, wild. Anyway, his family lives in Mpumalanga, where she was in the holidays. No electricity there. Went off during the show, so maybe she's living that life out now.
She's maybe going on.
Yeah, so that's tough. But on the red flag thing, I would imagine, and we'll see if we can get her back. But it's if you kind of see those types of characteristics in people early, and you know how people always are like, nah, I can change this person or whatever. I would imagine that's what it is. And then 2-3 years into the relationship, the heroin addict is still a heroin addict, and you've caught yourself up. You've not bought a house with them or whatever.
I see so many people who I know who either have just come out of a relationship, so they've just ended something. Maybe it was going on for a long time, maybe a short time. They come out of the relationship and then they immediately go into another one, which is usually a terrible sign. You need to give yourself a bit of time to actually learn to be alone again, and people are not good at that. They want to fill the void. They don't want to be alone. They're so desperate to close the gap that they will immediately get into another relationship, and they've never actually spent enough time on their own so that they can be happy, so that they can make someone else happy. It's more about filling their need. And I can promise you now, if you can't be happy on your own, you'll never be happy with anyone.
Yeah.
So you have to spend this time. I can tell you now, 4 of the people I know really well going through exactly the same thing, and they're doing the same dumb thing by getting straight back into another relationship. Unbelievable. You can't help people like this. You can say to them, hey, listen, and I mean, these are all smart people. I love them. They're friends of mine. Don't go and rush into this. Yeah. Of course. No, you're absolutely right. What do? They rush straight into it.
Because you know what I always think about relationships, and it doesn't have to be romantic, is that you have to give yourself the time to say, I might be the problem. Because nobody ever wants to do that. It's immediately, let me go and hide. Because some people hide in relationships, by the way. I know a lot of people who hide in relationships And instead of taking that time to say, maybe I'm a prick, you know what I mean? No, none of us are perfect, but what am I doing that I'm 3 relationships in a year? You know what I mean?
Go work on yourself a little bit, There's nothing wrong with that. Taking a bit of time to actually sort yourself out and work on yourself. That would be nice. And if people did that, perhaps they'd be happier, because all you do is, so if you've got so you take a glass, right? And your glass is half full, and you think it's up to someone else to fill it all the way to the top. Then what you're essentially doing is you're borrowing half of that person's glass to fill up yours. And then you're depleting them, which is extremely selfish, and in the long run means that you're going to both be operating at a deficit. If, however, your glass is a lot fuller than half, and that other person adds, let's say, 20%, 30% to your glass, but not more than that, and you can keep swapping that between each other so that both of your glasses always are more than 50%, then you're happy. I mean, you're certainly more happy than the average person. And you don't have to drop below 50 to fill some gap. It's just, to me, this stuff is so obvious. But people, obviously when you're in it, you can't see it because you're making it all about you, and you're thinking inwardly the whole time, and you're not looking at it objectively, and you're including your feelings and a whole bunch of other stuff. Anyway, just over that, because I do not understand it. Melissa says, I lost a friendship because I called my friend out on it. Literally months later, after a 5+ year relationship, she got engaged to another dude. Yeah. And listen, I do understand. Like, if you're one of those people who is looking for a relationship right now, it's extremely hard. These days, it is very difficult, especially post-corona. And I don't want to make excuses, but I think for a lot of people, it was already difficult before. To find someone, to meet someone. But now, all you have is online. And people are just not honest online. They're not the same as they are in real life.
And you know what? We all paint people in a romantic ideal, especially when we want to convince them, hey, come stay with me, let's call it a relationship. Is that the one thing we have to accept, or at least from what I've experienced in people, and you have to lock this in early. People don't change. Stop. No. So if you meet a girl at a club on a Sunday, right, and then you expect her to be some introvert now, and you're pissed off 3 months later, that's on you. My old man used to have a saying: don't get upset at people, right, for who they are. Get upset at yourself for expecting them to be something different. You have no right to be upset at someone for who they for being who they are. So people don't change. I can't tell people this enough. And you cannot change people. You cannot pull something out of somebody. We are who we are.
Right.
Mia san mia, as they say.
The only person you can change is you. That's where there's a caveat to your rule. And Dogozo says, good relationships can make one feel good. Some people get out of one of those and spend all of their time trying to fill that void by jumping into the new relationships all the time. That's exactly what I was saying earlier.
100%.
Lolontle says, I still don't understand, why would anyone get into a relationship? Why cause yourself so much trauma? Well, I mean, listen, in a good relationship, I mean, that's very cynical, but in a good relationship, in a good relationship, you add value to each other. And everybody wins, but it's hard to get those, and it's hard to keep those going. Anyway, all right, we got to leave it there because it's time for This Is Us. So I'm going to let Mbulelo go. I'm going to welcome Yatish Nasi. Nice to see you, Yatish. How are you? Happy New Year.
Nice to see you. Likewise.
Say that?
Yeah, you're right. We're almost a month in, but I think February is the cutoff. I think as long as you're in Jan, you're okay.
And here is Lebang Hosana, and this, of course, means This Is Us, which is what we get up to on a Tuesday morning. It's our chance to look at ourselves in the mirror. We were just talking about relationships, but South Africa as a country, we also need to look ourselves in the mirror. We need to see all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that is what we're here for. And this morning, we're also going to be joined by an esteemed guest, someone who we've had on the show before. He was on the Burning Platform with me not so long ago here on cliffcentral.com. But this is an opportunity to really bring a heavyweight guest in. And welcome to another Tuesday edition of This Is Us, the first installment of 2022. Every week, me, Lebang, and Yatish take some time to find some solutions in making South Africa great by chatting with an array of leaders who are always willing to give of themselves for the greater good. Today's guest is absolutely no exception to that. Professor Bonang Mohale is the Chancellor of the University of the Free State. He's a professor of practice at the Joburg Business School. He's also at the College of Business and Economics, the chairman of both the Bidvest Group Limited and SBV Services, president of Business Unity South Africa, and the former CEO of Business Leadership South Africa, past president of the Black Management Forum. Welcome, sir, to the show. It's always good to see you. Bonang Mohale, how are you, sir?
Oh, can you hear me, my dear brother?
And then he's going out. There he comes. This internet seems to be... There we are. We can hear you loud and clear. How are you, Bonang?
Yeah, something's up today.
Something's up with the internet. Hi, Bonang. How are you?
Very well. It says my internet connection is stable. I'm at Kivitskrone in Pretoria, so I'm hoping that you guys...
We can. You just keep it on like that, and then it should be fine. So we'll just hope you don't dip out too much. But that sounds and looks good. Bonang, it's great to have you on the show. There's so many things that we want to ask you this morning. Lebang and Yatish are here with me. Where do we begin? Lebang, do you want to start off with your questions for the first episode of This Is Us to Bonang Mohale?
Of course, I'm happy to do so. Morning, Bonang. Really excited to have you on the show this morning. As Gareth said, it's like the first installment of This Is Us that we're doing for the year. And after reading your book, Behold the Turtle, I guess my mind was just blown at so many different concepts and all the things that you covered, ultimately pertaining to just how we can make South Africa better. But the thing that stood out to me was the idea of living a life of purpose and meaning. It's a very common theme that you speak about quite often, but how would you say South Africans can strive to seek that in their daily lives? Because it's easy to say, but having and living a life of purpose and meaning is something that we should ultimately all be doing. How would you say that that's something that we can get closer and closer towards as South Africans?
I think that's what young people are looking for when they're looking for a job. Unlike in our days when they were and the motivation was money. They are choosing companies they want to work for. They are choosing the culture they want to work in. They are choosing the people they want to be surrounded with. And that, to me, is the very first of a life of purpose. Number two, it's about acknowledging that we are all beginning to die when we are silent about things that genuinely matter. Thirdly and lastly, a life of purpose, it's about saying at a personal level, do I have some sort of a compelling vision? Am I courageous? And can I live with integrity? Lebang, thank you.
Wow, those are pretty good guidelines. Those are, I think, very good pieces of advice for just about anyone in South Africa. But let's just talk about the country as a whole, Bonang. And in your view, how did we as a nation fail to actually achieve deeply felt reconciliation, patriotism, social cohesion, all of those things that the president was trying to say the ANC are trying to do now, which I don't think anyone believes him when he says that now. But 27 years on, how did we screw this up? Because we had everything organized. We had everything sorted out around us. We had all the goodwill in the world. We had people who came together. We had leadership we could look up to at that stage. Where did we screw it up?
Number one, I think the word is called greed by the people who call themselves our leaders. It manifests as state capture, as demonstrated by the Chief Justice Raymond Zondo's report number 1 of 3 into state capture. I think more than anything else, when you understand that people are not happy to be just financially independent and secure, they want to be first black zillionaire, then you'll understand what really drives them. There are 4 things that drive state, because state capture is much more than corruption. One is about creating a schedule where the decision making is no longer in cabinet and in the National Assembly. Number two, it's about repurposing the more than 740 state-owned enterprises and state-owned of the good people and replacing them with bad record that know what they're doing. And you replace them with people whose only claim to fame is aiding and abetting state capture. Lastly, of course, you're not happy stealing the money. Now you want to go to the fire hydrant and drink from there. You want to capture National Treasury because it owns two institutions. And then number two, it owns the biggest asset manager in the continent, the PIC 2010, 2 trillion South African rands assets under management. Thanks.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you talk about instead of just drinking from the tap, you go to the fire hydrant, and people do. They just get greedy, you know. And I think that's a hard thing for us to actually face up to, is that there are people, and I don't think it's a South African quality necessarily, because you see greed all over the world, but that greed has just led us in such a dangerous direction. And Yatish, I know that for you, and for many people in business in South Africa and in every industry, you know, Bonang is one of those people who just speaks through all the clutter, and he's able to address these things head on. He's very credible. People love hearing from him. What are your main takeouts? And I don't know if you've read his book yet, the book that we were just talking about a moment ago. But if you have, I mean, what do you think is missing when it comes to people speaking like Bonang do? And why can't more of us have the courage of our convictions and speak out like he does?
Yeah, I mean, I think I haven't read the book, to be honest, but it's certainly on the list of starting books of the year. But just from the sort of notes that have been passed around this week, just in terms of getting up to speed with some of the core concepts of the book, I think, you know, the thing, Bonang, that we've often spoken about here is a lot of the things you've just mentioned around state capture, around, you know, sort of what's happening with the treasury and our political system, etc. You know, one of the things we've really tried to think about at This Is Us is we've said at a certain layer, it's really hard for people to affect that, right? I mean, there's the political process, which again, we had a debate that people don't understand it well enough. But outside the political process, in your day-to-day, I think most South Africans feel quite helpless to all of those kind of forces going on. They feel like, I can't really make an impact. I can't really do anything. We're like kind of victims of really poor leadership. And I guess, you know, where we've been thinking about it is to go, you know, Bonang, outside of the political system, outside of that poor leadership, how does the average South African in their daily goings on create the momentum and show and demonstrate the leadership that's required? Because I don't think we're going to get it from there. I think let's resign ourselves to that fact. Yeah. So how does business show a greater sense of leadership? Because I think, you know, there's a void there and a gap there. And then how do average South Africans show their distrust and their disdain in a positive way, right? How do they use that energy to do the right things?
So, Itesh, let's puncture some inflated fallacies. It's not useful to say, but the rest of the world is corrupt, it also steals. Because we expected more from our leaders. Because they spent 27 years on Robben Island, the bar is higher. And because we have got 350 years of colonialism, 98 years of separate development, 48 years of apartheid, the only way as a people that we can have the moral high ground, that Nelson Mandela can continue to be the icon that he is. And then lastly, that South Africa of Nelson Mandela's dream, the South Africa that all of us have been dreaming and praying for, we should hold them to higher standards, unequivocally, unashamedly.
I think we keep losing Bonang. It's like the worst internet connection.
Today.
Yeah, it's not great. And Lebang was having trouble earlier as well. So anyway, I mean,
the political
when we get him back,
economy
I'll
more than anything else. Therefore, if politics determines economics, it means the people who are our political leaders must help us to improve the quality of lives of the majority of our people. In every election, the ANC says a better life for all. Actually, in real sense, 27 years into democracy, the rich have become richer, the poor have become much poorer. And I think let's just accept that. So how do we effect that at a personal level? Number one is to realize that the reason why we say our constitution is the best in the world, it's contained in the preamble of our constitution. It starts by it also says recognizing the past injustices. It then implores and mandates you and I to fix these past injustices. Lastly,
seems like we lost him. All right. This is very frustrating. I wanted to talk to him specifically because he has so many solutions in his book when it comes to like practical stuff we can do, especially around education. And, Bonang talks about higher learning, so tertiary institutions, secondary institutions, what we can do there. And obviously, we hold the world record. He mentioned it just now for being the most unequal country in the world. That's the
dude.
So, this is where we need leadership, and this is also where we need to be able to hear from the people who are brave enough to say what they're saying in the case of Bonang Mohale. Bonang, we're going to try and get you back on there. I don't know, your internet seems to be very patchy on your side.
Yeah, I blame Give It Screw. Is this better now?
So, seems like it, but you dip in and out. So I wanted to ask you
for
quickly.
which I profusely apologize. So let me just share some good news before we lose each other permanently. Okay. So the good news, and again it goes to Itashi's point, is that when all of us have fought hard and we have forced these politicians to deliver basic services to us, look at the things that we are able to achieve. SAA now is semi-privatized. Number two, municipalities can procure electricity from sources other than Eskom.
Right.
Number three, even private companies can self-generate their own electricity up to 100 megawatts. And then lastly, Devonport is the third from the bottom, but now Transnet accepts that through public-private partnerships is the only way that we can fix it. But some of these things that are going wrong, that we need to fix. Number one is to ensure that we narrow this growing inequality. Two, racism is at an all-time high. At a personal level, we should stop being racist.
Absolutely.
In place.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that.
When you have the power. Number two, when you inherently believe that you are superior. And number three, you use that power to exclude. Then you call you a racist. Number three things that we need, that, public education has collapsed. Four, that public health continue to fail the poor and the vulnerable. Number five, that crucial infrastructure is lying in decay. I mean, we used to have trains. Now the stations are under. Lastly, lawlessness has now become an epidemic. Sis Lebang?
Yeah, Lebang, I know you got some questions. Can I just quickly jump in on the education thing, Bonang, because this is something you write about in your book too. What can we do to improve education? You just mentioned public education has failed completely. So what can parents do to make sure that their kids have the best chance in a country where we can't rely on public education?
And
where government... Yes,
sorry.
Go ahead, Itash.
Sorry, I was saying, just to add to that, there was a comment in the group which I think is important in terms of this question on education. It's Michael who says, our leaders of today are children who suffered in poverty. These children are imprinted with this condition and become adults without being able to cope emotionally. So it manifests as greed. And I think that's quite important rolled into education. I mean, if you look at, even if you take what happens with like Brazilian football players, right, and how they completely sort of hit a wall through their career because they actually don't have the grounding to deal with, or the educational base to deal with that position of leadership when they get there. You know, so the education problem is vital because arguably is what's also creating the leadership gap later on. You know, we're never going to get great leaders if we can't sort out the base.
Yeah, you know, let me combine your two comments because they're so profound. You know, poverty still has primarily a black and feminine face. 27 years into democracy, that should not be acceptable. Number two, all not succeeded in eradicating the legacy of apartheid. Lastly, in education, where government fails, that's where number one, post offices are failing, couriers are born. Private security thrives because SAPS is not very useful.
Yeah.
Discovery medical aid is government can't look after its own people. The best is private healthcare because when you go to public healthcare, that's where you go to die. Lastly, I think at an individual level, as parents, let's just make sure that we work hard, we make those sacrifices, because progress is when our children have a life which on a composite basis is substantially better than the one that we lead. Lebang?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. I think another thing that kind of stuck out for me in the book, and we spoke a little bit about this earlier, is about some terms that a lot of our leaders will just use to, you know, sort of shy away from the real issue. And something that you cover in your book is the concept of the new normal versus the better normal. And I think post-COVID-19, with all the effects of what happened in the pandemic, really just shaking the world up. How can we, you know, use the better normal, the better tomorrow? I hope I was heard.
I think we
so.
got most of
The notion of a better normal, if you can hear me, Melban,
Yes.
because you hit the nail on the head. It's about accepting that there were three things that we wanted to deal with when we were hit by this pandemic. One, of course, is save lives. Number two is save livelihoods, because we knew we will kill 10 times more people because of hunger and starvation than those that are actually killed by the virus. Lastly, we wanted to break the link between coronavirus cases, and the only way you can do that is through vaccinations, because 98% of the people that are hospitalized are those that are not vaccinated. But you see, where we are, we need to accept that the target that we were set by
guys, I'm getting a bunch of messages here about just how frustrating this is, because we're desperate to hear what what Bonang is saying here, but it's really bad. I'm going to call this short, because otherwise we're going to frustrate and drive people crazy. But I do think there's some excellent comments that are being made here. Bonang, I thank you so much. I'm going to see if I can bring you back just to thank you here, but it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm sorry the internet connection's so bad that we couldn't hear everything that you were trying to tell us. And you are one of those people we look to as a wise sage. I would encourage people, if you're frustrated by the connection this morning, to at least read the amazing book that Bonang has written, and we'll give you all the details for that on the site. So we'll put that on cliffcentral.com. But thank you very much, Bonang Mohale. I'm sorry we have to call it short this morning, but this is very frustrating.
Cliff, my brother, I promise to come in person in the studio when it is safer to do so. Might be better.
We will arrange that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you.
Bonang Mohale. All right, listen, guys, I'm sorry. This is too annoying. I mean, we got people saying here, listen, it's just frustrating as hell. Connection is really terrible. It's impossible to hear what he's saying. So let's just leave it for this morning. This is us. I'm sorry. For our first episode, we tried to get you a great guest. We did. Unfortunately, the internet has not played games and not played ball with us this morning. Yeah. So we're going to call it quits at this point. That is the first episode, but not the last of This Is Us. We'll pick it up in conversation next week, Tuesday. Make sure you join us for a whole lot more.